For more resources, visit rymonline.org.
The Local Youth Worker is a daily podcast that's centered on 5 questions each week. Ranging from the practical to the professional, we're looking for answers to the questions you're asking. Whether you're in full-time, part-time, or even volunteer youth ministry, this podcast is for you.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We've been talking with Joe Deegan this week, and yesterday actually, we kind of ended talking about his family a little bit, and so that kind of helped us segue really into today's segment, because we have in some podcasts past talked about priorities, and Joe, you're a husband, you're a father of 3, musician, you wear a lot of hats. So what are some practices that have helped you balance priorities? And why don't you go ahead and tell us, who your wife is, how long you've been married, and children, because I know 3 children, and at one point you had 3 under the age of 3. So
that's
tell
right.
us a little bit about that first.
Well, my wife, Leah, is from Houston. We met 6 years ago. We've been married for almost 5. And we have a daughter named Ellie, who is, right now, she's 3 and 3 months. We have a son named Sam, who's 1 year and 9 months, and another son named Will. So when Will was born, Ellie wasn't 3 yet. So we did have 3 under 3, and it's been wild. Not that much sleep in our house these days, but it's great.
So yeah, I mean, with all that, and I mean, like you said, not a lot of sleep, and I'm a father as well, and so I know it can be exhausting. So, and you think, I mean, someone like you're performing music, you're writing music, and so writing on lack of sleep, that can be kind of tough. So how do you balance, your writing, your recording music? How do you balance that? What are some ways in which you prioritize being a husband, still being a father, musician?
Well, one of the things, I used to say this back when I was youth minister. It's just something my wife and I kind of came up with, especially when we started having kids, was I told myself that as long as I was in town, I didn't want to go a whole day without seeing my kids. And because I realized, especially as a youth minister, you wake up early in the morning to go have breakfast with a student before the kids are up. And then you go into the office and you work. And then you go meet a student after school. And then you go to have dinner with someone or go to a kid's play or ball game. And then you get home, when the kids are already in bed, and suddenly you've gone a whole day without seeing them.
Yeah,
but it didn't feel abnormal because you're still in town doing your normal work. And it hit me how easy it was to just let the day get away from me like that. And my wife and I had to make a quick decision to say, you know what, as long as I'm in town, I don't need to spend a whole day where I don't see my kids, because that can get away from me really quickly. And so we kind of came up with a system it might sound really complicated, but it's actually very simple. We would think of the day in thirds, like morning, afternoon, and evening. And I try to only work 2/3 of the day. In other words, if I know that I've got a show at night and I've got to do some recording in the morning or something, then I'm going to block off time in the afternoon to come home and be with family. Or if I've got to leave at lunch and go set up for the show at night, then I'm not going to work in the morning or take the night. Like whatever it is, I try to have like one of those blocks open as best I can. And it varies day to day. It's not always going to be the same, but as long as I've got that goal in my mind, it's something that it's helped having that goal, because it's something that I can strive for when I look at my calendar and what's going on each week.
Yeah, that's huge. I remember I had a seminary professor one time who told the class that his children, when they had grown up, one of them at least had looked at him and said, "You robbed us of a childhood." And I mean, that resonated with me, and I thought I'm not going to let that happen. But you're right. You have to be intentional, because these things, especially youth ministry, there's so much going on. These things can creep into, your schedule and your time. And before you know it, you know haven't seen your kids, and so that's very important. I mean, something that the Lord put on my heart years ago was just always, you know, Wednesday was my busiest day, and so always coming home for lunch on Wednesdays, and just kind of always having that on my calendar.
Right.
You know, on rare occasions, I would give, you know, lunch to somebody on Wednesday just to try to be home for a little while, because I had prayer breakfast on Thursday morning. So if I didn't come home for lunch, you know, I would see my kids Wednesday morning at breakfast and then see them again Thursday at supper.
Yeah.
You know, that was just something I tried to do consistently. So that's good on trying to see it in a third, like you were saying, and give that time to where, you know, at least 1/3 you're able to see your children. What about balancing, you know, husband and wife, especially, you know, with young children? They just are so dependent upon their parents and need you constantly. So how do you protect, you know, time with your wife?
Well, part of it is guarding our night times. We you know, try to put the kids to bed early so that we've got a couple hours every night.
Absolutely.
And I to me that's really important. And you know, also it's super helpful. Her parents are in town, and just finding times when we can get somebody else to watch the kids, even for a couple hours, so that we can get away. And the other thing I've had to realize too, as my schedule gets busier, is that as tempting as it is for me to want to come home and just watch Netflix and just like veg out on the couch, it's so important for me to sit down with my wife when the kids are in bed and to just talk to her for a little bit and to engage in conversation and what's going on with each other. And I've actually found that the times I've done that, like even if I set out to like, okay, let's just have like a 5 or 10 minute catch up, it turns into like an all night conversation, because I don't know, there's times when you can forget how much you enjoy your spouse, and you kind of go back to those dating days if you let yourself, and those are some of, you know, my favorite nights, when the TV never gets turned on. We just hang out with each other, and so just making sure to have that time after the kids are in bed, before we go to bed, when we can just spend time with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you're saying, just being very intentional with that, because I know even Ashley is my wife, and after each child has been born, there's times where you're just utterly exhausted.
Yeah.
And nobody's sleeping.
Yeah.
And so we have, you know, vegged out in front of the television, and we know, okay, look, we've looked at each other and we're like, this is just for a season, because we're just exhausted. At least we're sitting on the couch together, you know. But it's important to come back and say we need to have that conversation too.
It is, but I've also heard people say, like, sometimes the best form of connection is just to sit side by side quietly and watch a show and just enjoy it. Like that's something great too. And I love doing that.
Yeah, because you I mean, if it's a movie or a television show, you're experiencing that together.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can definitely go to the other. I mean, take that to an extreme, and that's all you ever do as husband and wife.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something you definitely want to be intentional about, having that conversation and turning the television off and spending time together. You know, I doubt couples, as they're, you know, I mean, maybe this is going in a morbid direction, but as, you know, a couple, you know, is separated by death, I doubt they're going to be thinking, I wish we would have binge watched more shows together.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it is just important to be intentional and to know, you know, as you're talking about being a musician, but this applies in all of life, youth ministry and elsewhere, that you're going to have to be intentional in these relationships and guard them for sure. So that's helpful, Joe.
Yeah.